I am Dr. Suvarchala, the Scientific Director with Ziva Fertility Centers. The first line of investigation for a male that walks in, whether he is infertile or not, just for assessing, is the semen analysis examination. It's a very simple investigation and only requires the partner or a male to give us an ejaculate by masturbation only. There cannot be any intercourse there. I will explain why. And the report can be generated within 1 or 2 hours. It's a very simple, relatively simple, now very simple examination. So it's performed during that day itself, and the report can be generated. Now, how do we do this, and how are we measuring the report, and what are the standards? So World Health Organization, over a period of years, for decades, and with the almost regular intervals, about 5 to 10 years, gives us new editions of the parameters, the standards that are supposed to be met for a person to be called as fertile or infertile, or the cause of infertility, or to be ruled out as the problem in the whole scenario. So how did they arrive at this? What WHO did was they looked at fertile men. They collected data from fertile men. Of course, they were Caucasians. They did not consider data from all over the world, but they took samples of fertile men, and they looked at the parameters of the sperms, that is count, motility, morphology, and these men were fathers. They were fathers. So they tried to come to a median where they saw what is the minimum required quality of sperms for a man to be a father. So that's how they generated this, and it's a median, it's a mean that we look at, and we compare the sample that is given to us for semen analysis examination. So there are a few things that we look at macroscopically. Macroscopic is in a higher level. So we look at the volume. The volume is supposed to be 1.5 ml at least. That's because that is the kind of volume that is required for the semen to be ejaculated outside the cervix. So that's where the sperm swim from. So the whole semen is left behind and only the sperm swim up. So it's a very interesting phenomenon, and a doubt that many couples ask us is that, we had intercourse but the whole thing is left out. It's not so. The semen is left behind, the sperm swim up. So that's the concept, and 1.5 ml is important. Now before the ejaculate is taken, the laboratory will ask you what the abstinence period was. It's very critical. It should be less than 3 days and not more than 7 days. Less than 3 days because we're looking at the right kind of number. So if the sample is taken consecutively before this abstinence period, we could get a lesser count. If the number is increased, if the days are increased, like more than 5 to 7 days, then the motility comes down. It's been in the reproductive tract for so long, the sperms, that they are subjected to a lot of factors that bring down its motility. So it's very critical that this abstinence period be maintained. Of course, we look at the color. It should be grey. If there is any tinge of pink or anything, it is indicative that there are red blood cells in it. It could be indicative of infection as well. So it's very critical that we look at the sample at a macroscopic level, and within that we also look at the pH. pH is, well, whether the sample is acidic, basic, or neutral, or alkaline. So the atmosphere inside the cervix of a woman is acidic. So therefore the sample, that the ejaculate should be alkaline, because the effect then is neutralized and only the sperms can swim up into the uterus. Of course the uterus is acidic because it wants to drive away any kind of infection that can harm the endometrium. So that's the physiology, and that's the reason semen has to be alkaline. So this is macroscopic examination. Now in microscopic examination, you have to understand that microscopic examination is standing like on a 10th floor building. When you stand on the 10th floor, when you look down, you can see people on the floor. You can't really see their clothes or their or how they look, but you can count the number more or less. Suppose you're on the 10th floor. So we look at the count, we look at the concentration, how much is there per ml, per milliliter of this sample, how many millions are there. We look at that. WHO has told us that it should be 20 million at least, million per ml, and that's what we look at. We do the calculation. Next is the motility. Now motility, you need to come down a little to be able to see, whether it is very fast moving, or it is slow moving, or of course not moving at all. So much like I said, from the 10th floor of the building, you now come to the 6th floor and see whether they are fast moving or they are so we call them progressive, non-progressive and immotile. If they are moving, no matter what the direction, they are progressive. If they are not moving, but you can make out that they are alive, they are twitching, then they are called non-progressive. and if they are not moving at all, whether dead or alive we are not aware, they are called as immotile. So that's how we do, we count 100, and within 100 how many are progressive, non-progressive, immotile. That's motility. But when we come to morphology, we need to look at the sperm very critically. Now microscopes are so advanced that every tear, every bend, every hole inside the sperm can be analyzed. So it's a very interesting factor, which also means that it is very important for the analyzer, for the one who is doing the examination, to be very critical and very careful. Therefore WHO has said that the morphology cutoff should be 4%. Imagine, out of 100, if 4 are normal, we can say that it's a normal sample. So we need to be very critical, very strict about giving this report. So much like our building simile, we need to come to the ground floor to be able to see what kind of a sperm it is. So we do it at a very high magnification. We try to assess and give the report. Now a normal sample will comprise 20 million sperm concentration, at least 40% motility, and 4% of normal morphology, and that's when we call it as normozoospermia. So it's very important that you be able to interpret your analysis, and you be able to understand what the critical importance of each parameter is. Of course we will talk about this in detail, but you want to do a semen analysis, or you want to assess how the parameters are in your semen, please feel free to contact us, take an appointment and come down and give a sample and be evaluated. Thank you.